Hi folks, how you doing? I'm Ross Minton and this is Grow Your Own Life Gardening. Grow Your Own Life Gardening is a new venture for me. I have another YouTube channel that some of you might have seen called Grow Your Own Life, where I do other stuff as well as just gardening. But for the last couple of years, my main interests have been gardening. So I've decided that I would like a standalone channel to hopefully inspire more people to get into gardening. I'm by no means an expert gardener. I garden in a very, some might say, messy way. I think it's important to let weeds grow. I think it's important to recycle where possible and encourage wildlife and even pests into the garden, because I believe that having a biodiverse garden helps with growing vegetables and flowers and everything else, because you are going back to nature. You are letting nature do what nature wants to do. And I find that by having weed piles and having log piles and bug hotels and other such things, I get more of the beneficial predators into my garden, like hoverflies, bees, butterflies, and all things like that, that actually help reduce the pests on my vegetable plot. Anyway, we won't get too into that now, but if you're interested in gardening and you don't know where to start, I'd like to think this could be the channel for you. I'm not going to get bogged down with Latin names, going to garden centres and buying new all the time. Everything on this channel is going to be about saving money, doing things how I consider to be the right way, helping nature, and trying to grow as organically as possible in a relaxed manner. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a neat and tidy, pristine garden with rows and rows of nice little neat vegetables and flowers everywhere, but that's really not for me. And I don't really get much enjoyment out of sitting in immaculate gardens. I love sitting in a garden where I see the nettles covered with ladybirds and aphids, or you see the ragwort with the cinnamon moth caterpillar on it. I love all those parts of gardening. And so if that sounds like you, then hopefully this is the right place. So please like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll have a lovely gardening adventure together. Hi folks, welcome to Grow Your Own Life Gardening. As you can see, I like to garden in a very natural way. I am not too bothered with weeds and other things. I think they provide quite a happy home for nature. And in the last few years, I've even noticed that the more dandelions, docks and other things I have around the garden, the less damage I get from slugs. I think this is mainly because if you clear all the weeds away, you leave nothing for the slugs and snails to eat other than your tasty vegetables. So I actually believe that it's a big myth in gardening that you should have a tidy garden with not lots of nice, neat little roads. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everyone with a clean and tidy garden is doing it wrong. Obviously, we all have to garden in our own way, and we all have to do what we think is best for ourselves. And for me, personally, I think that gardening in a rewilding style is better for me. There's no doubt about it, it's a million times better for the wildlife. I have seen so many bees, bugs, butterflies, crickets, beetles of all different species that I've never seen before since I've been gardening in this way. Even in my garden at home, when I moved in, there was just a flat gravelled area with no bushes or trees or plants or anything. And within just a couple of years of rewilding it, we've had longhorn beetles, we've had bee flies, we've had various grasshoppers and bees that I've never seen before. It's just amazing how when you let nature just take over just a little bit, how quickly all those little creatures come back. And those little creatures provide food for the birds and the frogs and all the other larger animals, and you create this wonderful habitat of biodiversity in your garden just by leaving a few weeds lying around. As you can see from my plot, I'm never going to win gardening or allotment of the year. No, just people wouldn't vote for a plot like this. But as habitat goes, I think it's awesome. I get so many creatures down here, it's untrue. I've even had stag beetles. Yep. A couple of years ago, after putting bark down everywhere, I was moving some logs over by the pond and I stumbled across a female stag beetle, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that in the middle of a large town with no real woods in this proximity, there's a bit of a forest over that way, about a mile away. I couldn't believe how quickly stag beetles had come in and used my little allotment as a home. It's wonderful. There's no other word for it, but it's absolutely wonderful. If you're considering starting a garden, if you're a beginner gardener, if you've got a courtyard, a plot, whatever you've got, I think there is opportunity there to rewild a little corner of it. Whether you build some planters or get some pots and put in a few things that you wouldn't expect. Maybe have some grasses, even some nettles. Oh, nettles, you won't believe how many creatures love nettles. They attract aphids, which you might think is really bad for your garden, but the ladybirds absolutely love it. And just by having a small pot with some nettles in, tucked away down the side of the shed somewhere, you'll get your garden booming with a ladybird population. And the thing is when you encourage these insects into your garden, yes, you encourage a few pests in, or pests. At the end of the day, a pest is what it is. As long as it's not causing you a problem, it's not really a pest. I have slugs and snails everywhere on my allotment. I've got to the point now where I don't really treat them anymore because everything else in the allotment sorts them out. I strongly believe that if you're starting a garden from scratch, have a weedy area, have just a patch somewhere which is a little bit natural and a little bit unkempt and a little bit how gardens used to be before we got so obsessed by going to garden centres and slabbing everything. When we have our gardens too tidy and we just fill it full of bedding plants everywhere and we have nice little neat rows of vegetable, you're offering no biodiversity whatsoever, and you're more likely to get pest attacks because you've basically taken away all the food source from all the other creatures, and the only thing they've got left to do is either leave your garden or eat your vegetables. So all the decent insects that we want in our garden, all the beneficial pollinators and the things that will eat other pests will leave, and they probably won't come back because there's nothing there for them. But all the pests, the slugs, the snails and everything else will look around your garden and they'll go, brilliant, there's nothing else to eat, there's no docks, there's no dandelions, so I'll eat that kale. Anyway folks, I hope that's been a little insight into my gardening ethos. If I flip the camera around now, I can show you some eggs on one of my kale, and this is what I mean about giving nature a chance. I grow kale, love kale, we eat quite a lot of it at home, but I always leave a few plants open so the pigeons can have a go and so the butterflies can have a go. And I find that when I do this, it's almost like a sacrificial crop. The pigeons have a go on a few of the plants. As those kale grow, they come back and they eat some more, but because they're getting something, they're not too bothered about attacking my other kale plants, which I lightly cover. I mean, if a pigeon really wanted to get into this kale plant over here, it could quite easily, but because I've got other kale plants which are down here that I allow the pigeons to eat, they don't make such a concerted effort to get into my precious crops. And the same with this. I find by leaving a few kale plants out and letting the caterpillars lay their eggs on it, it's so easy to control, because all I've got to do now is pull that off, feed it to the chickens, and that's it. Job done. So folks, until next time, I've been Ross Minter. This is Grow Your Own Life Gardening. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any gardening advice about rewilding and attracting nature, I would love to hear it in the comments below. So as always, take care. Speak soon.